This is a general outline of all the personnel from the Charleston Fire Department that were involved in this incident, and also includes the times of arrival on scene for each crew, totaling over 40 firefighters consisting of 10 engines, 2 ladder companies, and 3 chiefs. This is just to illustrate the number of firefighters and equipment on the ground and that the scale of the operation that was taking place would require a strong command structure to organize and effectively control all assets. Looking at the actual on-scene incident command development, the battalion chief, 4, arrives on scene and assumes incident commander at 7:10 p.m. The battalion chief drives around the structure performing a partial 360 size up until the assistant chief arrives 2 minutes later and becomes the new incident commander. They make contact and exchange information on current conditions, but the incident commander was never formally announced to all units over radio. Fire chief comes on scene and becomes the new incident commander for the entirety of the rest of the incident. However, it does not establish a stationary command post. So, failures of the incident command development. Number 1, the unity of command was not adhered to. Orders were given by different chief officers in different locations during the operations. For example, Ladder 5 was repositioned to the D side of the structure by off-duty firefighters at 7:31 p.m. Number 2, span of control was not followed. The number of personnel commanded by the incident commander should have been divided into divisions or groups for more effective control. The number of subordinates or functions a supervisor should oversee is between 3 to 7, depending on the size and complexity of the situation. Number 3, accountability systems were ineffective. They failed to account for and identify all firefighters during interior operations, and not all firefighters conducting offensive attacks carried radios to maintain communications with the incident commander. The accountability system used was the daily work roster, but was insufficient. Number 4, safety officer not designated. Investigators were told that the third due engine is assigned as the safety team, but they had orders to engage the fire and no direct designation to safety officer was established. Number 5, rapid intervention crew wasn't established, which should have been on standby in this situation. Number 6, liaison officer was not designated. A liaison officer would have been helpful in organizing the chiefs and other firefighters from the nearby mutual aid departments to coordinate efforts with the incident commander.
We will now review the fire attack strategies employed by the Charleston Fire Department during the incident. The Sofa Superstore fire was a complicated incident with many challenges. We will attempt to provide a broad and basic overview of the incident to identify general tactics utilized to address the fire. At 7:10 p.m., units were dispatched to the large Sofa Superstore for reported fire at the loading dock. The building consisted of 3 large showrooms and a large warehouse that were separated by smaller rooms and a loading dock. The building had an open steel truss roof with metal roof deck and drop ceilings that allowed for easy spread of fire and heat through the ceiling. The accumulation of smoke and conduction of heat through the ceiling would turn to be a recipe for rapid fire spread and rapid roof collapse. The fire is thought to have been started by a cigarette igniting a pile of stacked trash on the loading dock, which rapidly spread to the inside loading dock. It is here that the fire would begin to develop and spread into the open ceilings of the adjacent buildings. Between 1910 and 1913, Battalion 4 arrived on scene and established IC. Engine 10 arrived as first company on scene and established 2 small-diameter initial attack lines at the loading dock. Engine 11 and Ladder 5 established presence at the Alpha side of the structure, and Ladder 5 personnel advanced a second hose line through the showroom to attack the fire from the inside of the building. This is important because this established the foundation of the fire attack strategy and all subsequent actions. The fire department launched 2 attacks from 2 different directions, and due to a poor communication system, ended up unintentionally splitting the response into 2 separate operations, with the Alpha fire attack and the Delta fire attack being unaware of what each other was experiencing. Note that the fire crews only established small diameter hose lines in the initial attack. Engine 11 was tasked with catching a hydrant and running a 2.5 supply line to Engine 10, but miscommunication delayed the process. Over the next 10 minutes, from 1915 to 1925, Engines 16, 15, 12, 19, and Battalion 5 arrived on scene and began supplementing staff. It took Engine 10 until 1925 to establish a hydrant connection, which allowed them to run two 2.5-inch attack lines on the Delta attack. Engine 11 was still having issues at this time, and was operating with only an 1.5-inch attack line inside the showroom. From 1926 to 1933, it is reported that a civilian is trapped inside the repair room of the building with no exit on the backside of the building. St. Andrews Fire Department Engine 4 arrived on scene and immediately utilized a circular saw to cut a wall to free the employee. The employee is successfully saved from the building. At the same time the employee is pulled out of the building, a firefighter inside the showroom reports that he needs help. At 1933, it is clear that firefighters are in trouble. With Engine 11 attack operating mostly off a single 1.5-inch hose line due to water supply issues, the 2.5-inch hose line is finally charged, but it appears to be too late. It is unknown after the incident if the 2.5-inch hose line was ever used for attack inside the showroom. As the inside of the large showroom became heavily saturated in flammable gases, firefighters inside lost all visibility and became disoriented. Some firefighters began to evacuate by following the hose line out of the building, but others were unable to due to furniture and other objects creating an obstruction. The IC made the decision to horizontally ventilate the building to remove smoke by breaking the windows at the front of the store. The fire at the time was starving for oxygen, and the horizontal ventilation provided a rapid influx of air that triggered a flashover within 2 minutes of the ventilation.